AM, the Superstation in Detroit, WFDF, I should say. Also the host of the Michael Imhotep Show on the Empowerment Radio Network. We also broadcast on the Blog Talk Radio Network. I'm actually broadcasting on my Blog Talk Radio channel right now, and I'm broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. So we have 970,000 followers on our Facebook fan page. I started this fan page back in January 2010. And at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now this corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. And what you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So, I deal with, I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. I deal with current events, deal with history, deal with economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, deal with a number of different topics. I'm also in a few documentaries, Resurrecting Black Wall Street, the blueprint from Dr. Boyce Watkins and Your Black World Films, and director Dorian Chandler. I'm in the Black Friday films from director Rick Mathis, Black Friday, What Legacy Will You Leave? In the next few months, probably the next 2 or 3 months, director Raheem Shabazz is releasing the last installment of Elementary Genocide. So I'll be in Elementary Genocide Part 3. So yeah, we do a lot, brother. We do a lot.
Yeah, we had a discussion with Raheem Shabazz, which was 2 Wednesdays ago. Man. It was very good discussion.
Absolutely.
So, I'm just going to rattle off a few names and issues, and I'll let you double dutch in where you kind of want to find your footing.
Okay.
But I'm going to start saying some names and things.
Okay.
Steve Bannon, Michael Flynn, Betsy DeVoe.
Well, we could start with Steve Bannon. We could start with Steve Bannon, white supremacist, white nationalist, co-founder of Breitbart News, who Steve Bannon said is the home of the alt-right. He was brought on to Donald Trump's campaign in August of 2016 to be his campaign CEO after Paul Manafort resigned because there was too many articles about Paul Manafort's relationship with the Ukraine, with Russia, things like this. Steve Bannon is the Donald Trump's chief strategist, and Steve Bannon becoming the chief strategist and in the White House every day in the ear of Donald Trump, who I call the Manchurian candidate. He's not my president. He's a fraud. But Steve Bannon being made chief strategist legitimatized white supremacy and the alt-right, which was a term coined by Richard Spencer, who was the founder of the National Policy Institute. Okay, and so Steve Bannon is really bad news. And for all the people who went around quoting information from the conspiracy theory film Clinton Cash, Steve Bannon was the co-producer of Clinton Cash. People need to go research who put that documentary out. It was Breitbart News who put the documentary Clinton Cash out. This is why people need to do research.
Right. Okay. Let me ask you this. What do you think about Betsy DeVos?
Well, Betsy DeVos is a billionaire. She's totally unqualified for the position of Secretary of Education. I live in Detroit all my life. Betsy DeVos and her husband Dick DeVos have helped to destroy public education in the city of Detroit. They're strong advocates of charter schools and the privatization of the charter schools, things like this. And with that, the improvement of the quality of education does not go up, but they're trying to privatize everything, privatize contracts. You see during the confirmation hearings, basic things regarding education, she was totally clueless on. And she's never been a member of the PTA. She's never been a teacher. She's never been involved really in public education. She's not an advocate for public education. So she is just like Scott Pruitt, who's head of the EPA. It's like, yeah, Scott Pruitt is head of the EPA. Just like Rick Perry, who's head of the Energy Department. Donald Trump is putting these people in place who are at odds with these departments they're over to destroy these departments. And this is an example of how this is an example of how elections have consequences. And this is not about people's personality, it's about their policies. And this is a mistake that many African Americans made in this last election.
Okay. I want to ask you this question too, because I know I listened to your show a couple times. Whenever I have a chance to, I listen to it. And it was this one time you had Dr. Claude Anderson on, and you guys were discussing reparations and the Indian treaties and the things that would be required. Can you fill the audience in on that discussion? And then at the same time, people have this idea of reparations. Some people just think of it as, I just want to get my money. And there's so much more to reparations. And then under this administration, and how much of a long haul of a fight this could possibly be. So can you speak to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Dr. Claude Anderson is one of my teachers. He's the author of Black Labor, White Wealth. He's the author of Powernomics and Dirty Little Secrets about Black History, Volume 1 and 2. We're both in the Black Friday documentaries together as well. And Dr. Boyce Watkins, who's a mutual friend of yours and mine, as well as Dr. Anderson. Dr. Boyce Watkins has a new film coming out. He just interviewed Dr. Anderson today. Dr. Boyce Watkins, they put the video on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. So Dr. Anderson is a strong advocate of economic empowerment for Black people or African Americans, even though he doesn't like that term. But we talked about the Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866. The Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866. And people can go to his website, harvestinstitute.org, harvest, H-A-R-V-E-S-T, harvestinstitute.org, and get more information. They have an article around the homepage about the Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866. So this is our best chance to get any type of reparations. Now, I don't like using that term reparations, and the reason why is because if you understand verbal martial arts, and if you understand white supremacy, then you're using terms that inflame the opposition, and they totally shut down your argument before you get a chance to make it. So this is why I try to explain to people, do you want to win or do you want to keep fighting? Do you want to win or do you want to keep fighting? Because if you want to win, you would choose a strategy that will take you to a destination of actually winning, as opposed to a strategy that just keeps you fighting. Okay, so what happened was, we know the Civil War is from 1861 to 1865, and we know that the Civil War ends in June of 1865. You have the 13th Amendment of ratified December 6, 1865, and adopted December 18th, 1865. What a lot of people don't know is that all 5 civilized tribes are Native Americans: the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians. The Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians. All 5 so-called civilized tribes of Native Americans own Black slaves. So when they get pushed off their land in 1830 because of the Indian Removal Act, signed into law by President Andrew Jackson, they all get pushed out west, and they go over 1,000 miles, and they go into Oklahoma, what's known as the Trail of Tears. Okay, and they take their Black slaves with them also. Okay, they take their Black slaves with them, and you're going to have the Creek who go into Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Tulsa was founded by Creek Indians around 1836. Tulsa comes from the Creek Indian word Tallahassee, and the Creek are taking their African slaves into Tulsa, Oklahoma with them, right? So at the end of during the Civil War, these 5 civilized tribes of Native Americans fight on behalf of the South to keep slavery intact because they don't want to give up their slaves. Well, when they do this, they violate their treaties with the Union, because there were clauses in their treaties that stated that they could never take up arms against the Union. Well, when they side with the South and the South succeeds from the Union, the North, they violate these treaties. So prior to the Civil War, you had what were called Indian territories like Oklahoma did not become a state in the Union until 1907. That was an Indian territory. After the Civil War, the Union is going to take this land back from Native Americans and put them on what's called Indian reservations. Okay? And they're going to have these treaties. And one of the things these treaties stipulated was that they had to turn the slaves loose. They gave them free land. They gave them free financial aid each year, all different types of benefits, right? But also those benefits extended to the slaves that they owned and to the former slaves who were in those territories. And these former slaves became known as the black freedmen, okay? And it also these benefits also extended to the descendants of the black freedmen. So they got something like 160 acres of land per head of household, and they would get money, and even some other ones besides head of households got land. Talking about African Americans, okay? So what's going to happen is that by 1941, the U.S. government conspires with the 5 civilized tribes of Native Americans to redefine what a Native American is. And this is when they stipulated that you need a 1/4 or 1 quantum Native American blood, okay, to be Native American and get these benefits. But the original treaties didn't state that, okay? So we got, many of our ancestors were in those treaties getting benefits, okay, but they got illegally pushed out of it. Now, these treaties are still on the books today, and these 5 civilized tribes of Native Americans are still getting benefits. They get free college tuition. They get free radio station licenses, TV station licenses, free casino licenses. They get billions of dollars each year in money. Okay, they get land allocated to them. They're still getting these benefits. But many African people, many black people whose ancestors were in those treaties, we got pushed out of them, and many of us don't know anything about this. So if you're going to fight for something, we should be fighting to enforce the Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866. Number one, that's law that's still on the books today. Okay, reparations for former slaves is not law still on the books today. And 40 acres and a mule only applied to the state of Georgia and part of another state, if I remember correctly. That was General Order Number 15 in 1865. That did not apply to all former slaves. Okay, 40 acres and a mule. So if you're gonna fight for something, it makes sense to fight for laws that are on the books right now, because H.R. 40, which was introduced by our Congressman John Conyers back in 1989, that hasn't gone anywhere in 26 years. That bill was introduced in 1989. It hasn't gone anywhere in 26 years, and it's not even a reparations bill, because if you actually read it, and I'll wrap up with this, if you actually read it, that is a reparations study bill. That is a bill to petition Congress to fund a 7-year study to study slavery and the impacts of slavery and how to distribute reparations. But it's not a reparations bill, it's a reparations study bill. So thinking logically, my question would be, if you can't get a bill passed to study reparations, how are you going to get a bill passed to pay reparations?
Right. Very true. I'm going to ask this question on it. I just listening to you break all of that down. So, let's say you were a descendant of a freedman that was, under the Indians, right? How would you go about? You would have to prove that you were a descendant of one of the freedmen in order to receive the reparations, if they even decide to honor that.
Yeah, from what I know, you want to get look at your family tree, get together your ancestral information, any type of documentation, because some of our ancestors were members of Native American tribes, and they have their papers, things like that. You want to get that information together. And then also, if you go to harvestinstitute.org, harvestinstitute.org, which is one of Dr. Claude Anderson's websites, he has information there about it, and they had a lawsuit against the federal government, okay, to enforce the Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866. He had a lawsuit since 2006. Now, September 30th of 2016, his wife, Dr. Joanne Anderson, sent out a press release, and blacknews.com picked it up. And it talked about how the Obama administration settled a $492 million lawsuit with different Native American tribes, but the lawsuit from the Black Freedmen Indian Treaty, from the Black Freedmen, the lawsuit from the Black Freedmen was not included in that settlement. And I interviewed Dr. Anderson about this in February of this year, 2017. And he said the reason why it was able to be denied was because there wasn't a massive mobilization among black people to enforce it. So since most of us didn't know about it, yeah, it could just be denied and nothing happens.
Right. That's something that let me do this real quick. If you're just tuning in to Source Nation, this is Dr. Samori Swygert. This is The Pendulum, and we're having a discussion with Michael Imhotep. He is an educator, a historian, a lecturer. He's a writer. He gives his lectures. He puts together informative DVDs on African history. He gets you politically astute to what's happening with the signs of the times and the current situation that we're in now, and a whole host of things. He's the founder of the African History Network. You can find that on Facebook, the African History Network. And you can check him out. He also has a radio show, but I also let him plug himself. We'll get a little further into the show. Now, with all this being said, and I'm thinking back to a statement you made earlier, which is very important. You said elections have consequences, and November next year is going to be the midterm elections. And with that, there are about 435 seats in the United House of Representatives, 34 of 100 in the United States Senate that are just slated to be contested. You've got governorships and all that are all to be contested. What do you think should be a game plan for African Americans or just Americans in general? Because I know the people probably feel they were slighted this election, but now this is a time for you to really, we typically, when we think of African Americans, it's like we cast our ballot for the presidential election and we kind of coast. Do you think that Trump being the president now, do you think that has ruffled the feathers and kind of, hit the alarm button for people to really participate in the midterm election?
Yeah, absolutely. November 6, 2018, midterm elections, you were correct, 435 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. All the seats in the U.S. House of Representatives are open. You have 35 seats in the U.S. Senate out of 100 that are open. Yes, elections have consequences because the mistake people make is they get caught up in personality and don't focus on the policies that the prospective elected official is pushing. And these and two main ways to understand what politics are. Number one, politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. The legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. Number two, politics is the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. The writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. So yeah, you have a lot of people galvanized for midterm elections because from looking at the senatorial confirmation hearings of Betsy DeVos, of Attorney General Jeff Sessions. The Attorney General is huge for African Americans. Okay, people are realizing how important the U.S. Senate is. When you look at the U.S. House Intel Committee investigating the ties between the Donald Trump campaign and Russia, people are realizing how important the U.S. House of Representatives are as well. And you have a whole movement across the country of people galvanized by the document Indivisible. Go to indivisibleguide.com, indivisibleguide.com. You have hundreds of thousands of people across the country who've organized in just a few months. And January 21st, when you had the protests all across the country protesting the inauguration of Donald Trump, a lot of people who were at those protests, you had 1 million people in Washington, D.C. alone. A lot of those people organized based upon this document. And this document was put together by former congressional staffers. And what they did was they analyzed the methods that the Tea Party used to fight against President Barack Obama. and they've crafted these strategies to fight against Donald Trump. Okay, it's a free document people can download. Go to Indivisible Guide, GUIDE.com. When we just saw the massive uprising behind the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, many of those organizations, many of those people who were out protesting were organizing based upon that document. And what it does is it teaches you how to engage with your member of the U.S. House of Representatives, how to engage with your member of the U.S. Senate, and to get results and to push your issues. Okay, so people are understanding how important midterm elections are, but they're also understanding the consequences of not voting for president and also not reading the policies. Because if you read Donald Trump's policies on his website during the election, you could see this stuff coming. I wouldn't read his policies. I also read Hillary Clinton's about 36 policies. Her policies were much better than Donald Trump, especially for African Americans. She had $25 billion to help fund HBCUs and institutions that serve so-called minorities. She had $5 billion set aside for prison reentry. She adopted the Fight for 15, which that one policy could help lift millions of African Americans out of poverty, because about 70% of African American households are headed by a single female, and the average African American woman makes 63 cents for every dollar that the average white male makes. That one policy right there could lift millions of African Americans out of poverty. So there's an awakening. There's an awakening taking place. Now, when it comes to African Americans, I encourage us to download the agenda that was just put together by the Congressional Black Caucus called "We Have a Lot to Lose." We have a lot to lose. It's a 125-page agenda that they presented to Donald Trump and others when they met back, I think it was March 22nd they met. It's called "We Have a Lot to Lose: Solutions to Advance Black Families in the 21st Century." And you could go to cbc.house.gov and download it, cbc.house.gov. Or you can go to Roland Martin's website, rolandsmartin.com, rolandsmartin.com, and download it. Because I downloaded it, I got it printed up, and I went to the printer and printed it up. And I'm going through studying it. And what they do, first off, they lay out some of the history of African Americans to explain how we got into this predicament. And then they lay out the issues that we're dealing with, everything from education to pay inequities to racism, discrimination, all different types of things like this. They adequately lay out the issues that we're dealing with, and then they lay out solutions based upon facts to remedy these issues, these problems that we're dealing with. You know, they deal with voting rights, criminal justice reform, economic justice, education, healthcare, a number of different issues, but they did their homework on this. And this provides an agenda that every African American organization across the country, whether you're a block club, chapter in NAACP, chapter Black Lives Matter, Black Panther Party, there are elements in here that you can take to form a powerful powerful agenda, and you push this agenda on a local, state, and national level. It's not just to the White House. It's a local, state, and national level.
Okay. Powerful, brother. Very informative. Repeat that website again. Was it cbc.gov? Say what was it again?
Yes, cbc.house.gov. cbc.house.gov.
Thank you for that. I'm going to check that one out myself. You know, now I want to ask you another thing, too. Because this issue was right on the exit of President Barack Obama. When he was leaving, this was a big, hot topic issue. And it was hot topic when Trump came to office, and then Trump did his executive orders, and after that it just died down. And that's the issue of Standing Rock. But not just Standing Rock in itself, but I want to know your take. What does activism and protest look like in this technologically sophisticated 21st century, state-of-the-art police state surveillance and militarism? Is it marching? Is it protesting? Is it, like when people often think of protest, getting out streets, Martin Luther King, Ralph Abernathy, and we're going to march, they sick dogs, and it's like, no, they don't have dogs. They have something else that begins with B. It's called a drone. They don't necessarily just have nightsticks. They got tasers and kind of amplified, everything to kind of keep you oppressed. What does activism and protest look like to you
All right.
in this 21st century?
Sure. Well, activism still includes mass protests, still includes marches, it includes a strategy. Mass protests and marches are not a plan, they are tactics to be used in a plan. And this is one of the mistakes people make. A lot of people haven't really studied Dr. King and don't understand that the mass protests were designed to draw attention to the problem, to inform people about the problem, galvanize support so that you can incorporate people into your plan. And they had the mass protests to put them in a position to be able to meet with the politicians, to be able to meet with the decision makers to actually push their agenda. And along with the protests went economic boycotts. Okay, we just April 16th was just the anniversary of the Dr. King writing his letter from a Birmingham jail. Letter from a Birmingham jail. He wrote that April 16th, 1963, a 7,000 word letter he wrote while he was in jail. He was arrested during the Birmingham campaign. And they had, and this was in Birmingham, Alabama, and this campaign was designed to break the back of segregation in Birmingham. And you had economic boycotts, you had the downtown business district, you had sit-ins going on, all this stuff taking place at the same time. So when we look at what other people are doing, if you look at just this past Saturday, you had massive protests all across the country. People protesting to demand that Donald Trump release his taxes, which he's not going to do because he doesn't want to show he's in debt to Russia. Okay, he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to do that. So people are using mass protests. We saw each Tuesday people were protesting outside of their member of the U.S. House of Representatives and U.S. Senate offices, things like this. We saw January 21st. We saw mass protests across the country and around the world. Okay, you had like 4 million people around the world protesting the election of Donald Trump. So mass protest is part of it. The other part is galvanizing your economic power and redistributing the pain. What Dr. King taught us April 3rd, 1968 in his last speech, I've been to the mountaintop. He said we have to always anchor our external direct action with the power of economic withdrawal. He said we have to always anchor our external direct action with the power of economic withdrawal. And what this means is that when you have mass protests, you also have to have targeted, sustained economic boycotts against your opponent, okay? Yeah. To financially weaken them and put pressure on them so you can push their agenda. So if we just look at what happened today with Bill O'Reilly, okay? Bill O'Reilly has had the #1 rated talk show in cable news for about 15 years. He was the golden boy of Fox News. They parted ways with him today because over 80 advertisers pulled ads from his show. Pressure was put on them by organizations like colorchange.org. You had people contacting them. You had customers, things like this, contacting them, putting economic pressure on them, on these advertisers. Okay? And they withdrew economic support from Bill O'Reilly. All right. So other people understand this. You could look what just happened in North Carolina behind the North Carolina transgender bathroom bill. They changed the bill. NBA. Yeah. Well, they changed the bill because they lost $3.7 billion in revenue coming into North Carolina. Okay, and because different corporations, you had over 250 businesses and corporations that either had economic withdrawal of the state of North Carolina, or they're expressing extreme concern, different things like this. But they lost so much money that they had to change the law. Now, some people said the change in the law didn't go far enough, but it went further than the previous law. But this is the power of economic withdrawal. So first of all, we have to mass mobilization is good. Using social media, Twitter and Facebook, things like this is good. It's all part of a strategy, okay? But we have to institute targeted, sustained economic boycotts more. And I encourage people to download the agenda from the Congressional Black Caucus. We have a lot to lose. Go to cbc.house.gov, cbc.house.gov, because this is all part of a strategy. But the foundation has to be African history and culture. because it's African history and culture that gives you your VIPs, your values, your interests, and your principles. Your values, interests, and principles. So if what you value is trying to consume your way to equality by buying what white folks are trying to sell you, you won't be able to fight against them and withdraw economic support from them.
Say it one more time. Say that one more time.
Well, what happens is if you are trying to consume your way to equality because you value so much what Europeans are trying to sell to you, then you won't withdraw economic support from them because you value what they're trying to sell to you more than you value yourself and the future of your children. This is why the foundation has to be African history and culture. It gives you your values, your interests, and your principles, as Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor James Small, two of my teachers, teach us. Your history and culture give you your values, your interests, and your principles, and they influence your economic empowerment and your political empowerment. If that foundation is not in place, you can spend, it doesn't matter how much money you have. We spend 97% of our dollars on people that don't look like us, and we have an annual income of $1.3 trillion. Okay, so you can never control your economics until you control your mind. Stephen Biko, one of our great South African freedom fighters, he said the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Yes.
That's right. That, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't step away with anything, what Brother Imhotep just dropped, what he just dropped right there is key. One of the hardest things that I see, we see our people getting slaughtered in the streets, and then we go through this cycle. We get angry. We post so much on our social media page. Some of us may get in the streets. Some of us may organize for a little bit, but we don't have that continuum, that sustained force. When it comes to boycotting, it's like, well, we have every reason. We come up with every reason to, Walmart didn't. I just got to go to Walmart. I just got to go to Target. I just got to go to. We find every reason to spend rather than not to spend. And if we were to really think, like you said, was putting African values, interests, and principles first, think about the impact real quick. Something that just recently happened. You can look at United Airlines. When that whole thing happened,
right,
and when United first, the CEO, one of the executives on the board of directors, he was doubling down on his speech that the officers were correct in what they did, X, Y, and Z. He was not forgiving to that man. But what happened? It was the next day or the day after. I think they lost it was well over $500 million. Their stocks went down. I think it might have been almost $600 million.
Well, the first day,
they realized,
they lost 300 by the end of the day of trading. They lost 300 million. What happened was Munoz, I think is the CEO's last name, of United Airlines. It took him 3 tries, to 3 statements to actually get it right. First he sided with the aviation police. But there was so much outcry. And people have to understand this video went viral internationally because you had Chinese who were posting on social media about it, who were afraid to come to the U.S. because you have to understand this also took place in an anti-immigrant atmosphere heavily created by Donald Trump. This took place in an anti-immigrant atmosphere heavily created by Donald Trump, and this went all around the world. Okay, and you had
as he was trying to conduct relations with China at that.
Exactly. As he's trying to conduct relations with China, and we saw him flip-flop on his stance that China was involved in currency manipulation. We saw in 2 days he flip-flopped on 6 different platforms from his campaign. But he's a pathological liar. This is what he does. He's a pathological liar. He had no clue what he was talking about for the most part during the campaign. So what we really have to do is really pay attention to how other people fight for their issues. Because a lot of people learn from us, the mass mobilization, the economic boycotts. A lot of people learn from us and the civil rights movement. But since so many of our people don't understand our history, we don't understand how we used to fight and engage. Okay, and a lot of and other people have adopted a lot of those strategies. If you go and look at back in March of 2015, when Governor Mike Pence at the time signed into law the Indiana Religious Freedom Law. Once he did that, you had all these protests from corporations, NCAA, Angie's List, Apple, Salesforce.com. You had corporations saying that they were going to stop doing business or stop a new expansion in Indiana. You had 9 conventions that were supposed to take place in the state of Indiana. They threatened to cancel. One of them did cancel. It cost the state of Indiana $500,000. In a little more than a week, they changed the bill. In a little more than a week, because of the economic pressure, because of the exposure in the media, the state legislature in Indiana changed that bill, and Governor Mike Pence signed the new bill into law in a little more than a week. Okay, so we really have to pay attention, and this is what happens when people value themselves and the future of their children more than what's trying to be sold. This is what happens.
Right. Okay. Brother Imhotep, there's a man, we can go on for days. I want to hit maybe three more issues, if we can just go in there, pensive and direct, because I want to get these in. I'm kind of leery and I'm fearful about the state of our HBCUs. We see the fallout at Howard University, we see the fallout down in Morehouse. We've seen what happened with Morris Brown, stuff like that. What's your take on some of what's happening out here with these HBCUs? I think you're a graduate of HBCU, right?
No, I'm a graduate of Wayne State University, predominantly white institution in Detroit. But I understand the importance of HBCUs. So our HBCUs need continued support. They need more support. Roland Martin just interviewed Dr. Frederick, I think it's Dr. Frederick, the president of Howard University, this morning. This morning on News One Now with Roland Martin. And once again, this is an example of how elections have consequences and how we need to read the policies. Now, Donald Trump during the campaign spoke very little, if any, about HBCUs. He didn't talk about a plan to fund HBCUs. Hillary Clinton had a plan to fund HBCUs and other institutions that serve so-called minorities, $25 billion, okay? Donald Trump didn't talk about that. So he meets with, last month he met with the about 60 plus presidents of HBCUs, had a photo op with them. They went there for business. He had other intentions. Then when his budget comes out, there's no increase in funding for HBCUs, okay? And if I remember correctly, his budget wanted to cut in general Pell Grants by $4 billion. Well, Pell Grants was one of the things that they went to the White House for, and they met with Governor Mike Pence and others, and they were on Capitol Hill, advocating for HBCUs, advocating for more funding. Okay, Pell Grants are extremely important. Why? Number one, you don't have to pay Pell Grants back. Okay. Number two, 62% of African Americans who go to college go on Pell Grants. 73% of African Americans who go to HBCUs go on Pell Grants. Okay, and one of the things that they wanted to do was not just increase the amount of funding for Pell Grants, they also wanted to restore funding Pell Grants year round. So why is this important? The reason why this is important is because if you can go to school during the spring and summer session on Pell Grants, generally you can get out of school faster and reduce overall college debt. Okay, so we know that African Americans carry college debt further into their lives. About 54% of African Americans between the ages of 25 and 40 have student loans, compared to 39% of white Americans between 25 and 40. So when you can increase the amount of Pell Grants and and they can go to school year round, take out Pell Grants, you can also help reduce the racial wealth gap as well. So these are the type of policies
That's right.
they were going to push and advocate for. Okay, see, and once again, politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. Okay, so this is why this is so important. So with HBCUs, they need. President Frederick talked about how when he became president of Howard, undergraduate donations were 3.5%. Now they are at 10%, approaching 12%, and so those who graduated have to support. Those who don't graduate have to support, but we also have to advocate at the national level when it comes to the House of Representatives and the presidency, because the president drafts his budget, it gets approved and altered by the Congress. And this is a redistribution of resources for funding for HBCUs, but also endowments for HBCUs. Another thing they were there trying to get are more grants when it comes, more research grants. Because research grants help fund HBCUs also, just like they fund white colleges. Research grants.
That's right.
Yeah. So this is all extremely important. And we know overall African Americans who have 4-year college degrees have half the unemployment rate of African Americans who don't.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to. I told you that Michael Imhotep is the founder of the Active History Network. On Facebook, and hopefully Mike will do this. I was browsing his page. It may have been 2 weeks ago. What we're talking about right now with HBCUs, he posted a clip of Dr. Wilma Leon and Dr. Boyce Watkins, and they were talking about this HBCU problem, and they were comparing the endowment of our HBCUs versus these Ivy Leagues, and it's ridiculous. Like, I think Harvard has something like $35 billion, and Howard, it was some, it wasn't even a billion. It wasn't even a billion. It was like some hundreds of millions. And so when you look at that, these are pennies in the buckets. We have to do our maintenance and our upkeep with our universities. This is serious. It's very important.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, Michael, you can re-upload that again on your page, because it was important. When I saw it, I was just like, wow. Like, I contribute regularly because, I'm a graduate of Hampton and Howard.
Okay,
I contribute regularly to both institutions. But when I saw that, and I saw Dr. Leon and Dr. Watkins breaking down, I was just like, I almost felt discouraged in a way, because I was just like, man, this is a real uphill battle when you do the numbers,
Absolutely. Well, a lot of our people don't understand that. Yeah, a lot of our people don't understand how that works, and don't understand, once again, you're dealing with the reallocation of scarce wealth, power, and resources. And other people understand how the game is played, and we don't. And this is what we're dealing with.
Right. Okay, you have a little extra time, maybe like 10 minutes?
Yeah, that's fine, man. We can go ahead, because I'm broadcasting on my network at the same time, cool. So that's cool. And people can also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have video clips there, recommended reading list of books. All of my DVD lectures are there also. And then also you can register for our online classes. We have one tomorrow, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And this is it's a 4-week course, 8 hours. So you can register for that. And it's all recorded. So if you miss any of it, you can go back and watch it as well. So online course, you can tune in from around the world.
And they can also get the newsletter too, right? Because you should have a newsletter, right?
Yeah, we do also. Absolutely. Yep. You can register for that at our website also.
Okay. All right. Now, there's I want to touch down on these two before we conclude. Now, these two things are kind of major. One, I think people know it's major, but they kind of brush to the back of their mind. But I want to get your thoughts on this. The deaths, the mysterious deaths of 2 black judges. You had a black female Muslim I believe he was a black male judge in Chicago, I believe.
Yeah.
Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, I think it was in Chicago also. Yeah.
What's your take on that? Do you think this is like foul play and sabotage, and did they probably have some interesting cases coming up, or do you think this is just like they said? I think for the sister, I believe he said they're trying to say it was suicide. Excuse me, but I don't know. What's your take on it?
Well, for her, at first they were thinking of suicide, but now I think they suspect foul play with her, if I remember correctly. With the brother, I don't know. I'm one. I like to get the facts. Everybody wants to go with conspiracy theories, things like this. Let me just say this for a minute. You know, the people who just come up with conspiracy theories for everything really do us a disservice, because everything to them is a conspiracy theory, and conspiracy theories become an excuse for black people not to do anything about their conditions, because everything is a conspiracy. These same people who keep coming up with these conspiracy theories don't ever talk about what to do to solve the problems in the African American community. They just keep coming up with conspiracy theories. So Mike Brown really wasn't in the store that day. That was video from another day when Mike Brown was in the store. Oh, Trayvon Martin really wasn't killed where he was killed. He was killed somewhere else, and his body was taken there. Oh, it wasn't really George Zimmerman that killed him. It was somebody else. They never talk about solutions to solve problems in the African American community. They just come up with conspiracy theories, so they don't have to deal with the problems. So we have to be very careful about that, because conspiracy theories become an excuse for black people not to do anything about their conditions. Okay, so what's going on with these judges? I'm not sure. I like to get the facts, just like when we had back in June of 2015, I think it was June or July, when you had a rash of fires at African American churches. And everybody said, oh, it's the Klan burning down the churches. It's the Klan burning down the churches. And I said, well, no, we need to do the research. So I went and did the research, and I looked at the National Fire and I think it's National Fire and Prevention Association. And, you know, only 16% of church fires are arson related. 30% are because of cooking utensils. 4% are because of lightning strikes. You know, a lot of people don't know that you have 1,700 fires at churches and houses of worship and funeral homes every year. Somewhere on average about 31, 32 a week. Okay, so when all was said and done, we saw one church fire of African American church was a lightning strike, because the fire burned from the top down, and there were documented reports of lightning strikes in that area. We saw there was one African American man who was charged with two of the fires. We saw that these were fires in different states, different denominations, totally unrelated. It wasn't the Klan burning these down, you know, in most of these instances. Okay, so a lot of people just want to go with conspiracy theories. I don't know what their agenda is, but
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
But we need to deal with facts and evidence as much as possible. Now, you still there? Okay, I think we lost some more. Okay, I think we lost some more. What we'll do is, just a second, let me get some Maury on. We'll get him on my network. And hold on. I think they ran out of time on their network. Just a second. Let me send him. Okay, so those just tuning in, hey, you listening to the Michael Imhotep Show. This was a Dr. Samori Swygert on Source Nation radio on Blog Talk was doing an interview with me, and I was broadcasting it here on my YouTube channel, on Facebook Live, and on my show here on Blog Talk Radio, on our channel, the African History Network. So what we'll do is have him call in here, 904-338-1375. Press number 1 key. So we'll have him call in. He can finish his comments, okay? So how's everybody doing today? Okay, what's the topic? I was being interviewed. We were talking about current events. We were talking about Donald Trump. We were talking about an agenda for African Americans. We were talking about understanding politics. We were dealing with a number of different topics here. And you can listen. We'll post the link here again for the information. All right. So how's everybody doing today? Okay. So he's going to call in here in a minute. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network. Hey, I want to let you know to register for our online class for tomorrow, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay? And you can visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information there. I think we had Dr. Samori Swygert on the line, so just hold the line just a minute here. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information there, and then also we'll post a link here on the thread of the broadcast as well. Okay, we'll post a link here on the thread of the broadcast also. All right, let's bring him on here. All right, hey, is this Dr. Samori Swygert?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Brother Motep?
All right, I'm all right, man. I'm all right. So go ahead with the rest of your questions.
Yeah, sorry about that. So we were talking about the deaths of the two black judges, but the only thing I want to get your position on, there are some, these two high-profile shootings. You had the two high-profile shootings and mental health in the African American community. You had this one brother who I think was on this Easter Sunday, who shot and killed this man in Ohio,
Yes.
and allegedly killed other people. But you see, that went viral, and definitely we don't condone, we don't endorse, we don't co-sign that type of behavior. And then we had this other brother that just came and I guess shot. These three white people saying he didn't like white people and he shot them. And I'm curious, do you think that the media is going to take these high-profile shootings and use that as propaganda to perpetuate that quote-unquote law and order argument of Donald Trump to fuel the prison industry complex? Or do you think that this will just die down?
Well, right-wing media is going to use it to fuel Donald Trump's law and order platform. Right-wing media would do that. Now, more liberal media like MSNBC, I don't think they're going to do that. And I watch MSNBC every day. I haven't seen them do that. They report on it, but they don't sensationalize it. Now, right-wing media, Fox News, yeah, they'll jump all over that. Okay, but they will not talk about really when white supremacists kill African Americans, like James Harris Jackson in New York about 3 weeks ago. See, they won't talk about that. All right, but they'll jump on this case here, and with Steve Stevenson in Cleveland. There's no evidence that he killed other people. Police search, they couldn't find any evidence that he killed other people. It's clear that he was mentally disturbed, and also what a lot of people don't know is that he worked at a mental health institution for children who were foster children. Okay, and in one of the videos that he recorded, he said that he listens to people's problems all the time at that job, but he said when it came time for people to listen to his problems, there was nobody to listen to his problems. Okay, so mental health is extremely important. The brother in Fresno, California, who allegedly killed 3 white men and allegedly was said he went by the name Black Jesus, and he said he was trying to kill white men. There was social media posts talking about hating white people, things like this. There was an article from NBCnews.com where his attorney is saying basically that he has some mental issues. Okay, and I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't doubt that at all. That he has some mental issues, but mental health is a problem. Now, people could check out this article from NBCnews.com. 3 dead in Fresno shooting spree, suspect in custody. This is from yesterday because I talked about this last night on my show. 3 dead in Fresno shooting spree, suspect in custody. His name is Corey Ali Muhammad. So they talk about him appears to have some type of mental illness. Now, what people really have to understand is that a lot of the social ills that we deal with in society are the results of bad laws, bad policy. Okay, so when you have funding for mental health institutions cut by politicians, and they close mental health institutions, and then you have mentally ill people out on the street, and then funding for police is cut, and they're not giving training on how to deal with mentally ill people and how to understand the different types of mental illnesses. And they end up shooting and killing somebody who's mentally ill because they've never been trained on how to deal. Because dealing with mentally ill people is totally different than dealing with regular people. That's something totally different, and you have to be trained on the different types of mental illnesses and how to detect those different types of mental illnesses, so you know how to engage with this person. Well, when your funding is being cut by politicians, and they tell you to keep that stuff over there, keep it away from me where I live, and then when it blows up, then these same politicians want to grandstand and talk about what type of investigation they're going to have and things like this. No, a lot of the social ills that we deal with are the results of bad policies. So this is why understanding politics and also voting and putting the right people in office and firing those who are screwing you over is so extremely important. Because when you rise up and fire them, you send a clear message that you're not going to allow them to mistreat you anymore. And it also sends a message that you're watching what they're doing. And that's the last thing crooks want. That's the last thing they want. One of the main things politicians fear, besides a federal investigation, is losing their seat, especially in a landslide, because that's humiliating. And they still have to walk around that city. Okay, and everybody knows they just got their behinds kicked in the last election. And you also send a clear message to the person you're putting in office that if you screw us over, we took this last person out, we'll take you out also. And we're going to watch you. We're going to show up to the meetings. We're going to call your office. We're going to send you emails. Okay, you're not going to treat us like this other person. All right. So other people understand the power of their vote. And if you look at this last election, you had 14 new states, I think it was, that have voter ID laws, very oppressive voter ID laws. Texas and North Carolina had two of the most egregious. You had lawsuits filed. They're going to court to keep these, to enforce these voter ID laws. So if your vote was not important, if it didn't matter, why would people go to such extreme measures to keep you from voting?
Exactly. Very true. Very true. You know, and now that you say that too, Brother Imhotep, I think it's important that we, and you probably, your audience is probably definitely aware, because I know you're constantly putting out information that keeps people informed. But we probably need to do a show on all of the various, like, as Steve Coakley would say, name names of these various organizations that are behind all this stuff. Like, you know, you have like ALEC, you have like the Heritage Foundation. When you want to talk about websites, you have Stormfront. You said there was the one that was it National Policy Institute that Richard Spencer was behind.
National Policy Institute.
Yeah, so people will know because they watch us. You know, they watch us. So we need to start advocating and putting together our own watchdog groups and develop our advocacy groups and see what's on the horizon. Now, look, this is what these people are talking about. And we have to keep our eyes on them because they are crafting and designing these laws behind closed-door meetings. And so you end up with these stand-your-ground laws, these different voter ID laws. It just, things like that, things that will embolden the private prison industry and things of that nature. So,
right.
I mean, that would be a great show.
Okay.
That would be a great show.
Yeah, well, just let me know when you want to do that. We can do that because I have information on all of that. I've done presentations dealing with the prison industrial complex. Just very quickly, Judge Gorsuch, right? Judge Neil Gorsuch he was picked by the Heritage Foundation. A list was given to Donald Trump. Neil Gorsuch was picked by the Heritage Foundation. In many ways, he's more conservative than Antonin Scalia, who he was replacing. And this is one of the fundamental mistakes, man. Now, let me, and I'm gonna get back to you. I'm gonna get back to that subject. We'll talk about ALEC briefly, and we'll talk about privatized prisons. We have to talk about privatized prisons because they play a part right now, and they played a part in the election. So, one of the mistakes people made was, like I said, when this last election, and it was Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, people got caught up on personality and conspiracy theories and fake news articles. Now, one question people should ask, where are all these fake news websites now that were posting all these fake news articles that were negative about Hillary Clinton during the campaign? Where are these websites now? Most of those websites been taken down because they were fake news websites. A lot of them originated from Russia. Some of them coming from Macedonia or Yugoslavia, one of those places, okay? The other thing is that when you look at a lot of people, when they were looking at who to vote for, they didn't take into account the Supreme Court. And the next president is going to probably appoint in their first term 2 to 3 people, not counting Gorsuch, because that was a holdover from Obama. Okay, no, you got some old people on the Supreme Court. Anthony Kennedy, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and some others. So Trump is going to appoint probably 2 to 3, possibly additional people in this first term, or whoever's going to take over from him, because I don't think he's going to make it to the end of the year, to tell you the truth. I think he's going to be forced to resign based upon information I'm looking at and been looking at for months. Because I was saying for months Russia was behind this. I read the CrowdStrike report and Fidelity report months ago, before the election took place. Okay, and this stuff is coming out now because we found out a few weeks ago that the FBI launched an investigation into the Donald Trump campaign and their ties to Russia back in July 2016. They launched that investigation back in July. Now, they didn't say it publicly. We found out publicly when FBI Director James Comey testified in front of the U.S. Senate Intel Committee. That's when we found out that they launched an investigation back in July. Okay? And the other thing that a lot of people don't know is that the 35-page dossier that former MI6 agent Christopher Steele, the dossier he compiled, he turned that dossier over to the FBI last summer. It was around July when he turned it over to the FBI. And then they started making inquiries, and then they're going to launch an investigation. So I've been telling people, because I've been studying this stuff, this is much deeper than what people. I'm looking at the declassified information, and it's scaring the hell out of me. I'm looking at declassified information. So the classified information is much worse. Okay, so and then we see the people around him and all these ties to Russia. We see Carter Page. We just saw that it was revealed that FISA warrants were issued for Carter Page. We see that J.D. Gordon, somebody else in the Trump campaign, was the one who actually got the Republican National Committee to change their platform when it came to arming Ukraine to fight against Russia. He got them to change their platform, which benefited Russia. We see Paul Manafort and his issues with Russia. Now he's going to have to file to be retroactively a foreign agent. We see that Donald Trump had to fire his national security advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, after 24 days on the job because of his ties to Russia as well as Turkey. This dude was a foreign agent for Turkey. You know, so now what people don't really understand is that only white people could get away with some stuff like this. Only this is the epitome of white privilege, especially old white male privilege. Only white people could do some stuff like this. President Obama could not do 1/10 of this and stay in office.
Oh, Definitely not. Definitely not. But let me ask you this question, though, Brother Imhotep. What do you think is the end game? Because they're carrying on these communications, right? With Russian connects. Let's just say. Are they trying to get the inside? There was something. I don't know if it was MSNBC. There was something I was watching. It was a news network that published some new untapped oil reserves. And we know that was it Rex Tillerson? He was with Exxon.
Right. Rex Tillerson.
What does what does Trump stand to gain? I mean, aside from him probably taking money because of his bankruptcy status in America and him needing funding, so him seeking extrinsic funding from outside sources, what do you think is to gain that they're reaching out to Russia out of all countries? Because, we always had that whole, Cold War, adversarial, arch enemy, nemesis relationship with Russia. What would be that impetus, do you think?
Well, I will reverse the question. Is not Trump reaching out to Russia? Is Russia reaching out to Trump because he's been compromised? I think Trump has been compromised. And those in the intelligence community, many of them like Malcolm Nance, who you see on MSNBC and News One Now with Roland Martin, they think that when Trump was in Russia in 2013 for the Miss Universe pageant, he was compromised, and they think he's being blackmailed. And if you research David Korn, who writes for Mother Jones, David Korn was the one who wrote this story back in October 2016 about Christopher Steele, about this dossier, things like this, about Donald Trump. And David Korn said that the reason why Christopher Steele turned the dossier over to the FBI is because what he was finding out went beyond somebody being compromised and being able to be blackmailed. It went to the level of espionage and treason. Okay, so what people have to understand about Vladimir Putin are two things. Number one, Vladimir Putin is the former head of the KGB, which is the Russian spy agency, and now it's called something else. It used to be the KGB. He was the former head of the KGB. He's also the richest man in the world. He's worth in excess of $85 billion. Okay, this is the other thing, and he has taken control of people's businesses in Russia. We know oil is a natural resource in Russia, so there's a connection between Tillerson, who Trump did not know prior to the election. From my understanding, Trump did not know Rex Tillerson before the election. Rex Tillerson has no experience in business. He doesn't have foreign policy experience representing a country. So how does this guy become Secretary of State? How does this guy become Secretary of State? And why is the budget for the Secretary of State being cut so severely? Why doesn't this guy have media around him to report like John Kerry did and other Secretary of States did? So when you start looking at this and you start putting the pieces together, you start seeing behind you see these connections to Vladimir Putin and Sergei Kislyak, the Russian ambassador to the U.S. That's usually what's at the center. Okay, and I think Donald Trump is the real Manchurian candidate, and policies are being implemented to benefit Russia. Vladimir Putin wants to get sanctions lifted off of Russia, different things like this. So these are things that you see, and this is really a kleptocracy. A kleptocracy is a government ran by the worst people. You have a kleptocracy, you have nepotism, all this stuff taking place, and it's a house of cards that is about to fall. It's a house of cards that is about to fall, and only white people could do some stuff like this and get this far.
Do you think this is why Edward Snowden, when he turned home and started snitching and revealing all the sensitive data that could destabilize the intelligence community of America, do you think that's why he sought temporary asylum in Russia? Out of all the places in the world that he possibly could go, he went to Russia. Do you think that there's something? Because to me, some of this Russian connection and just there's something there, but I cannot put my finger on it, and I'm trying to connect the dots. but I don't know if I'm connecting them properly.
Well, I think that's why I went there, because Russia is an adversary of the U.S. and by him revealing those secrets, it hurts the U.S. intelligence community. Okay, by him doing that, which then emboldens Vladimir Putin. But one of the things Putin is doing is using Trump to sow seeds of distrust in the research collected by the intelligence community, and also sow seeds of distrust in the democratic election as well, and the results of the election.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is what
Yeah.
Putin. This is what Putin. Was trying to do. One of the things Putin was trying to do also. Okay, so and we do, and they favored Trump over Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton back in 2011 accused, if I remember correctly, accused Vladimir Putin of having a fake or undemocratic election, undemocratic election, something like that, and he felt that Hillary Clinton would be worse for him than Trump would. He knows Trump is an idiot and doesn't understand foreign policy. He knows that. Okay, and they're manipulating Trump. They have some type of leverage on him. The other thing is believed that Trump owes Russia a lot of money. Okay, we know he owes Deutsche. We know he owes Deutsche Bank $300 million. That's his largest creditor. We know he couldn't get any more money from banks here in the U.S. Okay, we also know now, if you look at Preet Bharara, the U.S. attorney to Manhattan, that was fired. Okay, right after he was asked to stay on. One of the case now, Trump Towers in Manhattan was in Preet Bharara's district. Number one. Number two, one of the things Preet Bharara was investigating was Deutsche Bank, because Deutsche Bank laundered $10 billion in Russian money. Now they had to pay a fine to the U.S. government, but there was some other charges that Preet Bharara was investigating involving Deutsche Bank, which is Donald Trump's largest competitor. So is it possible that somebody at Deutsche Bank picked up the phone and told Donald Trump to fire this guy that's investigating them? And it just so happens that this guy his district includes Trump Tower. And the other thing is that Preet Bharara was also investigating the sexual harassment lawsuit settlements that Fox News settled, because when they settled these lawsuits and they recorded it, it was reported today. They recorded it as income as opposed to lawsuits, which violates the SEC regulations, because Fox is a publicly traded company. So that type of information is supposed to be disclosed to your shareholders. But it was recorded as income for these women as opposed to lawsuit settlements, which shareholders are supposed to know about. Well, Preet Bharara was investigating that as well. So we know that Roger Ailes, who was pushed out of Fox News, who was the founder of Fox News, he was pushed out for sexual harassment allegations, and millions of dollars were paid out. We know he's good friends with Donald Trump. And then it was rumored that Donald Trump wanted to replace Preet Bharara with Roger Ailes' attorney as U.S. attorney in Manhattan. So when you do the research on this stuff, man, and start putting these pieces together, you see corruption on a whole. This is gangster mafia stuff. I mean, Trump makes the mafia look like Boy Scouts, man. This is corruption on a whole nother level. I've never seen anything like this. Yeah, I've never seen anything like this, man. And it's a house of cards that's about to fall.
I was saying that earlier on my show. I said that I've never seen, in all my life that I've been on this earth, this election season and current administration and all their dealings, this looks almost like a political reality show. It's one thing after another. It's just like, where does it stop? Where does it end? Where does it start? And the people, the more and more you just start turning over stones, you just start seeing this person is interrelated here. This person is linked here. But I just wonder where does it stop? You know, where does the buck stop? You know.
Right. Yeah, I understand. Well, one of the reasons why there's one thing after another is because Trump is a manipulator, and to take attention off of one crisis, he creates another crisis. But it's going to the investigations that are taking place. There are at least three, and see, the FBI has one also, and that is really going to be devastating. The FBI investigation, because that one started back in July. Okay, that one started back in July. All right, so what you know, there's going to be an ending point, and just like what's his name, Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon resigned from office. Okay, Richard Nixon resigned from office, and Donald Trump does not want to be impeached because he does not want to be put on trial. Because if he's put on trial, then he's going to be under oath. And the last thing a pathological liar wants to happen is that they're under oath with the penalty of perjury. Okay? So there's going to be an ending point, and people have to keep protesting, keep paying attention, putting pressure on members of the House of Representatives. We see members of the U.S. Senate like Jody Harris today, I think it was, the U.S. Senator. We see some of the senators, they can't keep covering for Trump anymore. We see some of them starting to turn, and they can't side with him anymore. Spending between $3 million and $3.6 million each weekend, he goes to Mar-a-Lago for travel and for security. They see that they can't keep justifying this anymore, and they're starting to turn on him. Okay, and this is going to continue, because even people who voted for Trump are starting to become disenchanted with them and realize that he lied to them. Okay, and they saw that with the health care. You had so many people who found out that Obamacare and Affordable Health Care Act were the same thing because they were so ignorant they didn't know that. So yeah, so this there's going to be end. This thing is going to come to an end, man. And this is why midterm elections are so important, and this is why it's important for people to vote for policies as opposed to personalities as well.
Brother Imhotep, first of all, I want to make sure that I definitely say thank you for just even having me as a guest in your show.
No
very
problem.
Good platform, very informative platform that people need to definitely stay subscribed to. You always post relevant material about African history. And it's making me think, because I went book shopping this weekend, and I picked up one of the books from Sankofa Bookstore in D.C., and it made me think about where we are right now under the Trump administration. I could say North Korea, I could say Russia, I could say China, I could say Cuba, I could say Iran. And all these countries, they ring bells when we just think about what's happening on a geopolitical scale. But then I purchased a book by Amos Wilson, and the title of the book is African-Centered Consciousness versus the New World Order, Garveyism in the Age of Globalism. And I haven't cracked it yet, but I've heard people talk about it, and the title, it gripped me immediately. And so I guess I'm asking you, with all that's going on in the world, all these different countries and the different interactions and how we're engaging this one and putting sanctions on this one and X, Y, and Z needs to do and weapons inspectors over to Iran, and are we going to lift embargoes on Cuba? But what do we need to do as blacks in America, or Africans in America, or melanoid people in America, and our fellow brethren and sisters back in the continent? Because everybody else is scrambling. we have the Chinese that in various countries in Africa, they're extracting the resources, they're building the infrastructure, they're intermarrying Africans, they're doing a whole bunch of things. They're mining all of our natural resources in Africa that they use for all the different machineries and equipments and engineering. Thinking about that title, African-centered consciousness versus New World Order, Garveyism and the Age of Globalism, what comes to your mind? Like, should we even be paying attention to all of this, or should we be looking at it from a different perspective?
Well, we have to pay attention to it definitely because it definitely impacts us. It definitely impacts us. We're dealing with reallocation of resources. We're dealing with laws that are put in place that impact us, whether you're talking about the Affordable Care Act or the attempted repeal of it, whether you're talking about dollars spent for military efforts, dollars spent reallocated in the budget. We just saw the budget from Donald Trump. We saw programs, I think it was about $4 billion proposed cut in Pell Grants. We saw a proposed shutting down of the public broadcasting system, okay, which has a lot of good educational programming. This is, I mean, all you have to do is look at that budget, that proposed budget, that tells you where his priorities are, but that gives you an example of how politics is the legal distribution of scarce willpower resources. These are programs being funded, $54 billion set aside for the military, and then he's trying to get billions of dollars to build the wall that he lied to his followers and told them that Mexico was going to pay for that wall. Now, come to find out, no, your mama's going to pay for this wall and you're going to pay for this wall. After he campaigned and told them Mexico's going to pay for the wall, President Nino of Mexico said, we're not paying for that wall. Okay, and the idiots believed him. Idiots believed him, and now they're getting hung with the bill. Okay, so this is extremely important, but it's also important for African Americans to have agendas, to have plans. An agenda is not just something that you present to somebody else. It's something for your people to operate based upon. So we know what we're supposed to be doing as well. Okay? And yes, you have to push these issues on a local, state, and national level, but it also, an agenda for your people also deals with our economic engagement, supporting our own businesses. It deals with education. It deals with the type of institutions we should be building. So yeah, an agenda is not just something we push to other people to push our issues and to get something tangible in exchange for our vote, but it also is a roadmap that tells us what we should be doing as well to bring into fruition what we want also.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So let's do this, brother. Let's do this. I gotta wrap up, man, because I gotta do a radio interview at 7 in the morning, man, here in Detroit, and I have to drive to the radio station. Yeah. So let people know when your show's on, Samori.
Yes, once again, it's a pleasure to be on the African History Network channel, Blog Talk Radio Show. My name is Dr. Samori Swygert, a.k.a. Dr. Swag. I am on blogtalkradio.com/source radio, and I'm on every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. So they can find me on my website if you just want to reach out. I update it every now and then. Blackladder.net, black like the ladder, black like the color, ladder like the tool you climb, .net. It is not a .com. Twitter is DocSwag06, DOCSWAGG06. And once again, it's always a pleasure, man.
No problem.
I remember Brother Imhotep, as a caller, I used to always listen to Warren Ballantyne's show.
Okay.
Imhotep always calling in. Yeah. Always calling in, kicking the facts up. I was like, man, who is this guy? You know,
right.
You know, just seeing you coming in and just rising and constantly providing great quality content, you know. So it's good to just be here, just kicking with you, brother. Soak up and share. So that's
absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, that's how I got on the Empowerment Radio Network, man. Calling the Warren Ballantyne show because I was already doing Blog Talk Radio. Now, what type of what's your doctorate degree in? What type of doctor are you?
So I'm a doctor, a doctor of pharmacy. I'm a critical care pharmacist. So I work in the hospital. I'm not your Rite Aid. I'm not your CVS. I'm a critical care pharmacist. So I work in the ICUs side by side with the doctors, nurses, and respiratory therapists. We design drug regimens and therapies for patients that are in the ICU, whether they have infectious disease or they just have some type of autoimmune disease or just different type of ailments. So that's what my doctor of pharmacy. I got that from Howard University, residency trained also. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Well, look, man. Thanks for interviewing me tonight on your show, and thanks for coming on our show also. And we'll have to do this again as well. Okay.
Okay, no doubt, brother.
Okay. Take care, man. Have a good night.
All right.
All right. Peace. All right, guys. Look, I gotta get out here. I have to, every Thursday I do Steve Hood's radio show on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation here in Detroit, WFDF, and I have to do his show tomorrow morning 7 a.m. and I'm working on pulling together the content for the show. So, and I have to teach a class, online class tomorrow night, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So you can register for that class. We have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can also, those watching on Facebook, we just posted the link for the information. You can register there as well. Understand ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Now, on Facebook, I don't know why the feed keeps going in and out. Usually doesn't act up like this. I don't know. Usually it acts up on YouTube. YouTube hasn't given me any problems tonight. Facebook is acting up. I don't know why. I have no idea. We're broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube. Those watching us on YouTube, how you all doing tonight? Go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the live international online class we're doing tomorrow night. It's an 8-hour course. Is 4 consecutive Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We do it thousands of years of history. And we deal with the transatlantic slave trade chronologically. We deal with African people being indigenous to this land, being here at least 51,700 years. We deal with the 800-year occupation by Europe, by the Africans known as the Moors. We deal with Christopher Columbus and his 4 voyages, and what Columbus, how the Moors set Columbus up to sail on his 4 voyages, and how Columbus and his discoveries of the lands, Jamaica, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Panama, Honduras, etc., how that laid the foundation, helped lay the foundation for slavery, racism, capitalism, and the exploitation of indigenous people. Okay, so the course is only $40 for all 4 sessions. All the sessions are recorded. You can watch it anytime. They're all recorded. You can go back and watch it over and over again. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So we have the information at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and then also those watching on Facebook, we posted the information here on the thread. You can watch it there as well. Okay. So these other topics we got to get to, like tomorrow night, we'll talk about Bill. Well, I don't know if I'll be able to broadcast tomorrow. I got to figure it out. I have to do Steve Hood's show in the morning. I have to teach the class tomorrow. That's at least 3.5 hours. So I may be able to broadcast for an hour tomorrow before the class at 7 p.m. We may be able to broadcast tomorrow at 6 p.m. I have to figure it out. I don't know, because I'm not exactly sure what time I'm getting to bed tonight. Hopefully, I can get to bed by midnight. Okay. All right. And then also, we have all of my DVD lectures at our website also. And we have the Hidden Colors Family Bundle Pack. Get all 4 installments of Hidden Colors. And get 4 of my DVD lectures. And 1 installment of Afro Man, the Protectors of the Book of Knowledge. You get all that for 1 low price. Check that out. Right now, spend $100 or more. Get 20% off your entire order. Use coupon code March 2017 promo. March 2017 promo. All right, look, we got to get out of here. Hey, remember, on the Michael Imhotep Show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. We'll talk to you next time. Peace. All right, guys. I got to get out of here. I got work to do before I get to bed. Am I reading the comments? What about the comments, Terry? What about the comments? I read some of the comments, but I was busy being interviewed. What comment are you referring to? Hey, Nita, how you doing? All right, guys on YouTube, got to get out of here. Peace.